Okay, hello everybody. My name is Nicholas Hellmuth, and I've been in Guatemala since the 1960s. Still working here. Sorry about all the shade on my head here, but there's a light in my room that bothers me. So Palenque is where I first got started. Now, what I'm going to show you is what I've gone through from age 16. I'm 78 now and still working out in the field. I want to show you what I did kind of at student age. And it'll go from many subject to many subject to many subject. So I went to Palenque at age 16 in 1961. And here's a picture of me that somebody kindly took with my camera. As you can see, there are almost no tourists at Palenque in those years because it's very hard to get into. But then I went back to my high school in St. Louis, Missouri, and wrote my high school thesis on Palenque and the other Maya stuff that I didn't see, and also on the rainforest. And that thesis won first prize in my high school course because not many students at age 16 go to Palenque in the 1960s. So that first prize in my interest in Maya architecture was able to get me into Harvard because I was not first in my class, I was not second in my class, I was not third in my class. But many schools want to have different types of people to do different things. And I was different at age 16 for being really enthusiastic about the classic Maya. And I kept going down summer after summer. Here's about 1963. I'm about 17, 18 years old. And I heard some people in a restaurant. I was in a hotel, a cheap hotel in Tenosique, Mexico, in Tabasco. And I heard the people at the next table talking about Bonampak. And I got up and went over to the table and said, I mentioned Bonampak in my high school thesis, but I've never been there. And they said, well, they were the archaeologists going there that day. And I said, well, can I come with you? Will you take me? I'll help you. And they put me in the plane and flew me there. So we're at a Lacandon airfield. There's no airfield at Bonampak. And I helped them carry everything to the site, all the supplies, miles and miles through the jungle. And then I helped them set up camp. And then after setting up their camp, I went on to Tikal. Now, when you're in the Chiapas area, you get to meet the Lacandon. So I studied the Lacandon in person, and I wrote about the Lacandon, but I was 17 years old, 18 years old. I didn't know there were two Lacandon groups. The Lacandon of today who speak Yucatec Maya, and the original Lacandon who spoke Cholti Maya. I later found out that the original ones were slaughtered, massacred, moved out in the 1700s. So I went to study in the archives of Guatemala City and the archives in Spain. What was the Lacandon village like in the 1600s? So I did a lot of work in ethnohistory to learn about the difference between the original Lacandones. The ones today came in from Yucatan and Campeche. They moved in because after the Spanish moved the original Lacandones out, there was space for the additional ones to come in. And so both Lacandon cultures are very important. And at age 19, I was offered an internship at Tikal for 12 months because the University of Pennsylvania archaeologists wanted a photographer and an architect. And I was a photographer and I studied architecture at Harvard. So they asked if I could come take a year off from Harvard and stay in the jungle for 12 months. Yeah, of course. And so you get to meet a lot of snakes. On the left, I'm 19 years old in 1965. And then about 7 or 8 years later, I'm still out in the jungle, still with snakes. And I'm at Yasha in the 1970s. Now, getting back to Tikal, I think a lot of archaeologists who are professors today start out as a student intern. So again, here I am at Tikal, and Dr. William Coe assigned me to excavate and do architectural drawings of the entire back, which is the north edge and the east side of the North Acropolis. So there I am taking notes. You see my measurement stick and learning day by day. Of course, surveying in those days was optical, no digital surveying, but there I am with the surveying group. You have to learn a lot. So be prepared to learn a great deal. And again, here I am in Tikal. So we've dug our way. That's the back wall of the palace. And on the left side and on the right side is the edge of this wide doorway. Of course, that's all fallen in over the last 1,000 years. And on the left, after we removed all the fallen vault stones, we found a bench, the throne, and on it was a Patoli game board. So a lot of stuff that I discovered at Tikal in 65, I'm still studying today. So in other words, if you discover, Patoli's known for all of it. It's a game board like Parcheesi or Monopoly. But if you find it when you're 19 years old, you want to study it. So I've studied it for years and have a special lecture just on Patoli. Again, since I was an architecture student and since the Tikal project wanted me as an architect, one of my jobs and one of my interests was to learn, how do you build a pyramid? Now, that's a whole separate lecture, so I'm just going to show one slide. But while I was there, I learned how they built the pyramid. So you do it in sections. So you have these areas here, these are stone walls, and this is fill. Then there's a stone wall outside here. Then after that, they put the final wall. So this final wall comes on finally. They build it terrace by terrace by terrace, and many of the pyramids have a wooden temple on top. Now, they're not all stone temples. So after 8 months of doing that, archaeologist Linton Satterthwaite and William Coe asked me to find out, why did that pyramid have no stone temple? They thought maybe it was built at the end of the Classic and there wasn't time to finish it. In other words, the city collapsed before they put up the temple. So they assigned me to date the pyramid. Well, the best way to date the pyramid is to find the burial under it. Then you can date the ceramics. So here I am inside the tomb of the Jade Jaguar. It took a month, 2 months to get in here and do the excavation. And that's a separate lecture, but this was my undergraduate thesis. But again, you learn a lot. And the most important thing is, don't be afraid to learn what you don't know. Just learn, do it very slowly and learn, because obviously nobody in any university ever taught me how to dig a burial. Then after Tikal, we went to Yasha in the 1970s and worked there 5 seasons to map the site. And this is our research room. And so we worked there again for about 5 years. I was interested in Yasha because it has the largest carved stone monument showing Tlaloc, the Teotihuacan imperial deity, shows him at a huge, huge, huge size. So now one thing I specialize in is photography. Here's a rock outcrop. This is something we're very surprised to find. You can see the leg of the Maya person there. That's the leg there. But you kind of hard to photograph it from this angle. So what I did is I had the people working for me build me a ladder, handmade, to climb up into a tree so I could photograph it from the top straight down. And that's what you're going to see throughout this entire presentation, is when I want to do something, I do whatever it takes to do it. And working at Yasha and Nakum's about 17 kilometers away. So roads can be kind of muddy. Everyone thinks, oh, 4-wheel drive, no problem. Well, I mean, no way, because your tires sink so deep that the middle of the road is higher and your middle of your car gets stuck on it. So again, don't think that 4-wheel drive can get you through anywhere. It took 2 days to get the vehicle out. And so be careful when you're driving. And a lot of people who come to Yasha, they still get stuck today because, oh, I got a 4-wheel drive, I know how to do it. But you learn fairly quickly. But again, working in the Peten is quite amazing. And we have video after video. We're still working in the Peten. We have a 5-year project with the Forestry Department, CONAP, to study plants and animals in the entire northern Peten. And we get stuck all the time. So we usually go in with multiple vehicles, and one gets stuck, the other pulls it out, then that gets stuck, the other pulls it out. So if you can't take the water in the roads, another way to get to an archaeological site is on the river. So this is one way to get from, once you get to Piedras Negras, you then have to go to Tenasique. So this is, again, one way to experience getting to the archaeological sites, because I must admit, it's really enjoyable. You have a life experience as an archaeologist doing field work. Of course, if you don't want to go down the raging rapids of the Usumacinta and you don't want to get stuck, and find somebody who can loan you a helicopter and take pictures out of the helicopter. It's best to get a helicopter where you can take the door off and leave it at the airport. And then, because you don't want to take pictures through the glass of the plane, you want to have, so here I am out in the Petén, another helicopter. Local people very kindly would loan me helicopters. And then this is the type of photograph I got, but you're only going to get this photograph if you're not photographing through the window. So again, you have to take the complete door off. You have to have harness on so you don't fall off. You turn around, you put your feet on the outside landing thing of the helicopter. And of course, you don't fly over the pyramids. And obviously you get a permit. You have to get a permit before you can do this. And you take it diagonally, and you have to use a stabilizer because of the shake of the helicopter, you use a stabilizer for your camera. Now, cameras are something I'm really into. And in the 1990s, the National Museum of Ethnology of Japan hired me to do photographs for a book of theirs. They hired me for 18 months. So I spent 18 months solid in Mexico, Belize, Honduras, all over the place taking pictures. And because it was a Japanese book, they provided me adequate funds to get adequate camera equipment. So we now have photographs from this type of a camera. And notice we have a good tripod head. So this is the tripod head, a key, very special head to hold it on a very special. So these are Gitzo tripods, they're the strongest tripod in the world. These are Manfrotto Bogan tripod heads. So again, you really have to have good equipment to do this. And also you can see over and over again, a ladder. A ladder is the single most helpful thing. You know, we think archaeology, okay, shovel, trowel, all that kind of stuff. But when you're photographing, then you need a ladder. So this is in a museum in Copan. And the sculpture of the bat I want to photograph is up high. So you need a ladder. So you're going to see a lot of ladders here. And here I am at Santa Rosa Ixtampac. This is a very interesting site in Campeche. It is a mixture of Puc architectural style, of Chenez architectural style, and Rio Bec architectural style, all in a single palace. So we had a permit to work here in 1989. And again, I wanted to photograph the whole place. This was mainly a photography project to rescue by high resolution photography. And since we have a project here, and since we're spending several months here, we also have scaffolding. And then when I worked at Copan, I brought my own table. This is a table on wheels, because when you're working with a digital camera of this power, this is a medium format scan back on a large format camera. You have to, it's operated by a computer. And then down below, you can see this is the computer for the camera, and this is the computer that operates the computer for the camera that operates the camera. So again, we have pretty sophisticated equipment, and we appreciate the local people at Copan, because obviously you have to have a permit to bring all this equipment in, and we really appreciate that. Now, I try to use a tripod whenever possible. Nowadays, with in-camera stabilization and in-lens stabilization on a Sony mirrorless, you can often get by without a tripod. But when you have a camera this heavy, you got to have a tripod. But what happens if the angle, you can't get your tripod at it? So we fixed up this wooden thing, and we tied it up with a rope. So again, because I'm photographing something on the ground and altered. So again, you do what it takes to get your photo. And here is another example of that. I'm going to jump forward. This is a sculpture at Bilbao. So it's at an angle. So I want to photograph it at that angle. Well, in order to do that, I got to stand. There's no ladder. I don't have a ladder this big. So I stand up on top of my car. Please don't do anything so stupid like this, Because look at the edge of the tripod. What if that slips off? What if that slips off? What if the chair slips? The value, the cost of the tripod alone, the head, the camera, and the lens is more thousands than I can even think of. But again, because I wanted to get this photograph, again, and the other thing I'd like to point out is there are a lot more cultures than the Maya. I'm specialized in the Maya, but you need to study the Olmec because they're the ones that originated a lot of stuff the Maya had. This is Bilbao, Santa Lucia, Cuauhtémoc, and it has cultural influence from lower Central America, from Teotihuacan, from many places. The whole Costa Sur of Guatemala, it's not a Mayan area. It's absolutely incredible. And that was the trade route from Mexico down to Costa Rica. So during the Japanese project in the 1990s, they wanted all the cultures of Mexico to be photographed. So I got to do the Mixtec, the Zapotec in Oaxaca. I got to do the Toltec at Tula. I got to do Cacaxtla. The Cacaxtla murals are in Mexico, and they're very important to study because, again, no matter whether you're studying just the Maya or just Oaxaca or just anywhere, they all had trade routes. They all interacted with each other. It was completely international and multicultural. So here at Cacaxtla, you can see the equipment. We had 2 trucks with equipment to do this photography for the Japanese project. And of course, obviously we had permits. And because these Cacaxtla murals are part Teotihuacan, they're about 50% Maya, absolutely amazing to have Maya. And they even show God El, who's the Maya god of merchants. And of course, he's the appropriate patron to be this far up into Mexico. So again, it really helps to study multiple foreign cultures. Again, here I am with a giant camera photographing an altar down here. So I need to have the camera above it looking down. But as you can see, what happens if I slip? What happens if this board slips back and I slip forward? So you got to be, sometimes I'm not very careful, as you can see here. But again, and look at the size of the camera I have here. These are huge, huge, huge cameras. This is a 4x5 camera. So you got to be a little bit more careful. Here I am in Palenque. Again, a ladder is essential. And I'm photographing what's inside this area here. But again, obviously we have a permit. And that's the other thing. It helps. Well, you have to have a permit. But it helps if the local park rangers and the local administrators already know you. So when I would go to Palenque, they would let me work in the museum at night because then there were no tourists. It was easier to work. And also at night, it's easier to use your lighting. So again, photographing from above. Here I am. Excuse me. Photographing from above. I'm working at Nimli Punit. In order to get good photographs, you have to be above. There's no way to put a ladder, a tripod, because it's so large. So I had all this handmade in Belize to hold the camera so I could look straight down and take the picture straight down. Here I am doing architectural photography. And again, it helps to have a sturdy tripod, a good tripod head, and a pretty good camera. This is a 4x5 camera, and I'm inside one of the buildings. And again, it really helps to have the access, permission to get in. Sometimes what you want to photograph is above you. Sometimes you're above photographing down, and other times you're below photographing up. So here I had to get down on the ground and photograph straight up. And again, it helps to have a tripod that can do that. And when you're in a narrow area, you need a wide angle lens. Normally, I don't use a wide angle lens because it distorts a small amount. But if you're in a small area, you don't have much of a choice. Again, I mentioned access. because this photograph is inside a tower of Rio Bec. In other words, if you're a tourist, they won't, you're not going to get anywhere near this. But because I worked there year after year after year after year after year after year, all the local park rangers, they all knew me. I would drive through the towns, wave out the window to them and their families. So when we would have the permits to go into the ruins, the local park rangers would let me in to photograph whatever I wanted to photograph. And now what our goal is to find all these old photographs and scan them and then make them available to Campeche, to Quintana Roo, to Yucatan, and to the national headquarters of the Cultural Institute. Again, here I am, a Japanese project inside the museum in Mexico City. Whenever you bring in a whole studio, the curator will often shut that whole part of the museum down. And I said, oh, please, there's thousands of tourists who've come to see the same room. So please don't shut the museum down just for me. Let the tourists come. So they let everybody come around. And the other thing is, when you're photographing, it helps that you're an archaeologist, because then the curators know that you know how to handle an object and how not to handle it, what you don't do. So during these many, many times of working in museums, so here, for example, this is the Olmec, all the Olmec figurines. They took the whole glass cover off because you can't take a picture through a glass cover. So I really appreciate what they did. And again, you want to put it on a table, and you want to have preferably a black background. Often I would use colored backgrounds, but that reflects color on the object. And now I realize it's better to use a black background. And frequently, the local archaeologists, if they knew I was nearby, would ask me if I could come take pictures for them, for their projects. And we still do that today. So if we happen to be near somewhere and the local archaeologists don't have our type of camera, or nowadays don't have our drone, we do the photography for them and donate it to them. Now, for those of you studying Maya hieroglyphs, of course, the primary standard sequence, this cache vessel doesn't have it, but to study a primary standard sequence, you need to have a rollout. That really helps. So I developed a digital rollout. All the rollouts you see online are manual rollouts by a manual hand-done camera, but I wanted more precision, because with this digital system, again, this is the computer that runs the camera. This is the computer that runs the computer that runs the camera. And this connects with this, and this connects with the turntable. It's all measured digitally. So you actually measure the vase digitally, and you measure the rollout, so it's not distorted. And if you go into the Museo Popol Vuh here in Guatemala City, you'll see a lot of my digital photographs. And here are, again, this is the same setup. This is the Popol Vuh decades and decades and decades ago. And you can see this is the object here, the cache vessel, and this is the rollout. And it's important to see this because many stucco facades of early classic architecture have similar faces on the stucco facade. And notice how big we can print these pictures. Okay, this is it's over 3 or 4 feet high, and that's a long photograph. But see, you can't do that with a normal rollout. You can only do that if your original picture is digital. It also, while you're doing all this, it helps have research space. So for many years, I was a professor, and this is part of our research. This is about half of our research space at Bowling Green State University. For many years, I worked in digital technology. So I'm an archaeologist, but I'm working in digital technology. And we worked all over the world. I flew over 2 million kilometers in the past 20 years to countries all over the world to go into factories and chemistry labs and learn about digital technology for printing the photographs. Because to print photographs this large, you have to know about what type of printer, what type of ink, and all that type of stuff. But nowadays we work mostly with plants and animals because I'm interested in, okay, you have LIDAR shows you have millions of Maya living up in the Petén. How do they feed themselves? So I'm very, very interested in food, every type of food. And since my photographs have been used in several books on cacao, the books by Sophie Coe and Michael Coe on cacao, all 3 editions have my photographs, because when they asked me for photographs, I drove all the way down to Mexico and took photographs for them. I'm also studying the flavorings for cacao because Michael Coe asked me, he said, Nicholas, if I had the time, I'd like to study the flavorings of cacao. What did the Maya add? So obviously they include some of that in their book, and achiote is obviously there, which you see here. But there's a lot more. So I spent about 5 or 6 years studying flavorings of cacao and all over the rainforest, mountains, and all that kind of stuff. So it also helps to go to the Mayan villages. Here in our office, we have 2 people that speak Cachiquel Maya, several people that speak Quechua Maya, and 1 that speaks Pocumchi Maya. So when we go out into the remote areas, notice this house here still has a thatched roof. We've even found houses that have kind of like banana leaves. Banana's not native, but the heliconia is a native, doesn't give a fruit. And we found, this is not this house here, but we found all kinds of houses out in the remote areas that are not in almost any book at all. I don't show them because that would be a whole separate lecture. We go out there, we have permission, we study the inside of the house, we study what materials on the outside of the house and what the materials the roof is, but it's a whole separate thing. Okay, I mentioned plants. This is a Ceiba pentandra tree. The Ceiba pentandra is the national tree of Guatemala and was a sacred tree of the Aztecs, the Mixtecs, the Maya, because it's one of the biggest trees and it has beautiful flowers. These flowers open about maybe 7 o'clock at night. So you'd find a tree that has buds on it, park your car, get permission from the local people, set up your tripod, set up your ladder, and then have everything ready, because when those buds open, hundreds, over 1,000 buds in one tree, they all pop open. And the minute they pop open, bats come all over the place. There's a bat because they're after these flowers. Here are the flowers. So they've all popped open. The green ones will open the next couple of days. And when you're photographing these, so you see you're on your ladder, the bats are coming up here. The wings of the bat bump into the flowers, and that spills the nectar. It's a liquid that spills the nectar. That's what the bats want. So as you're talking to your team to do the photography, your mouth is open occasionally, and the nectar drops into your mouth, except that when the bats fly away, after the bats have eaten lots of nectar, they have to go pee-pee before they fly, because they have so much nectar in their body, they can't fly. So before the bats fly away, all 400 or 500 of them go pee-pee. So when you're photographing them, you don't know what liquid is coming to you, the raw nectar or the batified nectar. But so I wanted to taste the pure nectar. So I got some of the flowers on a night when the moon came out, because the bats don't like to come when there's a full moon. So I went out when there was a full moon and drank some of the nectar. I mean, if I were a Maya king, I would want Ceiba nectar every night. It's not hallucinogenic or narcotic or anything like that. It's just delicious. And we found other foods. There's a tree, I don't show it here, it's a separate lecture, that produces milk. It's called the milk tree. And you touch it, and it produces a white milk. I stuck it in my mouth. It was so good. Again, if I were a king, I'd want 1 glass of nectar and 1 glass of the milk from this tree, like Melia tree. So after I was finished, again, you just stuck your finger on the tree to get the latex put in your mouth. I said, well, I got to get rid of the latex. I'm using a camera. So I rubbed my fingers like this to get rid of it. And my fingers stuck together like solid glue. In other words, that milk is also a glue. And I said, I'm glad I only had a drop of it. Otherwise, my throat would kind of glue up. So you got to be careful when you're out in the field. And again, ladders. Here we are with a ladder and our tripod. We have a really tall tripod. What we're photographing, you can't see it very well here. These are ant nests, arboreal ant nests, and in the arboreal ant nest, there are bees. Right now, we have a bee project. We're working with a bunch of bee people up in the United States, and we're going out and finding bees for them. Ladders, ladders, ladders. So here I am out in the, I study water lilies. One chapter of my PhD dissertation was on water lilies. And after week after week of field trip, month after month, year after year, I found that in some areas, the water lilies bloomed underwater. So I mentioned this, and all the botanists said, no way. They said, Nick, no way. They bloom above the surface, as you can see over here. And then as they die, they withdraw. But I said there's one river that's so clean, pristine water, they bloom underwater. Here it is blooming underwater. But to prove it, I had to go underwater and photograph it. So I spent week after week after week out in the rainforest in this particular area, because that's a whole separate subject. So again, I respect all professors. But if a professor tells me something doesn't happen, for example, we found aquatic orchids in Yasha, and they said, no, they don't exist. We went out and photographed and proved that they do. So again, don't be gentle with the professor, but they're sitting in their classroom, reading their books. Your professor is out in the field. Marcus is out in the field, but many other professors don't go out in the field. And so by going out in the field, you can find things that are not known to most professors, but be gentle. So we're very interested in everything having to do with the water. We worked in the Caribbean area of Guatemala for about 17 weeks, 1 week every month. And these are our publications on plants. So each one of these is a different plant that is edible. All these plants are edible. Because we're very, very interested in edible plants. Oh, here's the milk tree. And notice, by the way, it has spines the same size and shape as a ceiba. So again, when you talk to anybody and you talk about an urn that has spines on it, everybody will say it's ceiba, and that's kind of correct. But we found in 50 years of hiking through the rainforest, lots and lots and lots of other trees that have spines just like ceiba. And this is the one that produces the milk that's a little bit sticky. Right now, for the past couple of years, we've been working in savannas because, most of us archaeologists work up on the hills because that's where the Maya sites are. And the savannas, we have whole separate hour after hour of lectures on savannas. When I first saw this savanna, I cried all the way down. We're up on top of the hill, and I could see through the trees. I could see this open savanna going for miles. This is a wild native savanna. It's not man-made, it's a native savanna. West of, it's east of Nakum. And I cried all the way down the hill. And once we explored, we've been here now several times, almost everything in the savanna is edible. So we think that they were like food basket places. Now, another thing we study, again, are sacred plants. So here we are, this 4-petaled flower here is related to water. So this 4-petaled flower grows along water. And I'm interested in 4-petaled flowers because these are 2 ceramics I dug up in the tomb of the J. Jaguar at Tikal. And the origin of these flowers was not known to anybody. So again, month after month after month, I go out, and now we have an entire separate lecture just on 4-petaled flowers. So topic by topic, flowers. Many flowers are in Maya art. This is a particularly beautiful flower. It's very, very common in wetlands, in swamps, marshes, along the shore of rivers. And it produces a fruit. The fruit is so big I can't even show it. The fruit's about this big, huge. It's the biggest fruit in all of Guatemala. called zapatón plant. The tree is called Pachita aquatica, and it grows. It's used as cacao. The seeds inside are, it's not a chocolate plant, but they're used for making cacao. So it's a very interesting plant to learn about. And I also found out that the ants, these are leaf cutting ants, and they come and they chop up the different pieces of the flower when it falls to the ground. And then they carry that back to their nests and they exude a liquid onto the plant. A fungus grows and the ants eat the fungus. So they don't eat the flowers, they eat the fungus. But again, flowers are very important. If you Google fleur-de-lis Maya, you'll find this flower in late classic Maya vases. And Charles Zidar and I, independently and together, have found out what flowers produce it. So one of my goals of our field trip, this constant field trips, is to go out and find and photograph every flower in Guatemala, in the mountains, in the volcano areas, in the swamps, wherever, and find out which are used by the classic Maya. So we are a lot of field trips. Here you can see we're out in the mountains, highlands. You can see we're going to this Maya house here. Again, these houses have never been visited by any ethnographer because they're out in the middle of nowhere. And they have, these houses are built out of local Maya material. It's very, very important. And getting here is not very easy, but it's fun. It's an adventure. And again, wetlands, I've mentioned water lilies before. Here we're out, you can see the volcanoes, the ring of volcanoes. So Guatemala City is over here behind the volcanoes, and the Pacific Ocean is on the other side. So we've worked here. This is the Monte Rico area, and CECON, C-E-C-O-N, is the institute of the university that works here, and they're very kindly provide us the permits and the access to study water lilies, because water lilies are the most common flower in all of Maya art. It is unknown for sure whether it's a narcotic or hallucinogenic. It has been suggested that it is, but we're studying it as the decoration. Well, you don't eat stuff like that. And the milk, fortunately, is not a narcotic. So lots of things in the wetlands are, so this is a turtle. In Mayan art, you see a lot of designs that show things sticking out four corners like this. And what it is, it's a turtle. And instead of having the legs sticking out, they show God sticking out. They show all kinds of things. So it really helps to get out into the swamps, get out into the rivers, and study every single aspect. So for example, this is the bufo toad. The name's been changed. The zoologists and botanists change the names every 10 years. This is the bufo toad. Now, right here is where the poison sac is. Okay. If a dog were to bite this toad, the dog would die by the end of the day. And in the hours as he's dying, he would wish he was dead more quickly. It's one of the worst things. And during the 60s, people wanted to hallucinate by sucking on this stuff. And the Maya put toads in their cacao. There were eyewitness accounts. The Maya people, obviously not at the classic period, but after the conquest, still putting these toads into their cacao. Not every Maya put it into every cacao, but here I am holding it. We were literally out in the middle of the jungle, and I asked the local people, I said, we're studying toads, do you have them? And they took me in their house. Most Maya houses allow one or two of these toads to live in the house because they eat insects at night. So while the people are asleep, these toads go hopping around, eat all the insects. And in many restaurants where we go to in Petén, the toads are wandering around eating insects. And notice that this toad is not exuding, this is in my hand. There's the poison sac. He's not exuding anything because this toad knows I'm not going to hurt him. and pick him up, study him, and put him right back on the ground. And so he does not exude. Same with tarantulas. Here's a tarantula crawling on my arm. Here's a tarantula crawling on my hand. The students with us, they like tarantulas. Often they let them crawl over their face. We got lots of pictures of them with tarantulas crawling up down their face. It's very easy. You put your hand out in front of the tarantula. If it goes up like this, you take your hand away. If it doesn't go up, the tarantula comes up, tests your hand, jumps up on it, and then crawls up your arm. I've had 2 or 3 of them on me at the same time. And the local people are screaming, "What is this stupid gringo doing? He's going to die." But you see, I'm not hitting the tarantula. And the tarantula knows it. It senses it. So it doesn't bite me. Crocodiles are very common in Maya art. I just posted, well, actually this week, we're going to post 6 chapters on crocodiles in Maya art. There are that many crocodiles in Maya art. 6 chapters. We'll post those later this week. And to study the crocodiles, you need to study them up close, not holding them on your hands. But here I am under a crocodile, photographing up as it's kindly opening its mouth. And here I am, to get this angle, you got to be down on the ground. It's a different crocodile. So this crocodile said, "Oh, yum, 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 this stupid gringo. But I'm going to get some shots before he gobbles me up." But again, to study, and also study hieroglyphs, because to study the hieroglyph of all these animals, you need to know what does the animal really look like and what stylization and modification did the Maya use when they did their hieroglyphs, because often there's not enough space to show the whole animal. Felines are very important. This is a close-up of a feline of a puma in Belize. And when I saw this feline, I said, I want to get closer. Here it is. Now notice these photographs are out of focus because the photographer who was taking them said, "Nicholas is so stupid. That puma's going to eat him first and then eat me, the photographer, for dessert." Actually, this puma was raised in a family. Often people will find a baby and they'll raise it to save it and protect it, and then they'll let it go wild. But when it's wild out in the fields, it still recognizes people. So it, you can see here, it's giving me a look and it comes over. And again, it helps to study these animals up close. There are 5 different felines. By the way, we also write books for children under the name Mayan Tunes. And so these are children's illustrations by our illustrators. Here's the jaguar, puma, ocelot, jaguarundi, and margay. And this is a house cat to show you the different sizes. But all felines are very important. It helps to know the dentition. You know, what are the size of the fangs? What are the size of the molars? Sorry about this, a little bit out of focus. You can see this is a margay. So again, it helps to notice these animals up close. Also the color. This is a black jaguar, usually called the black panther, but they're actually jaguars. And you can see the spots here. And when these animals jump into the water and come out, you can see the spots even better. Jaguars also come in white and gray, but they're quite rare. Black is by far the most common. And then you have, this is the jaguarundi. It has no spots. Maybe when it's a baby, but no spots when it's grown. And this is sort of like a stretched house cat, just a stretched house cat. Now to photograph these, to get close-ups, we obviously need to go into the zoo. All the zoos in Guatemala and many zoos in Mexico let us inside the cage. That's right, inside the cage. They tell us what our survival chance is. So for example, they say, don't go in a peccary cage. I said, you're welcome to, but we advise you not, because peccary will attack en masse. But these animals are used to people. So here I am letting the jaguarundi lick my hand, just like a dog licks it. And then he's going to be happy, and then I can take my pictures. So here are pictures of all the animals. Again, we want to learn because the jaguar spots And the ocelot spots and the margay spots, the pelage, are all different. So if you go into a book that talks about Maya pottery and shows different spots, every caption of every illustration says jaguar. Nope, sorry. A lot of the spots are this way and a lot of the spots this, but unless you study these animals in person, up close, it's much easier to learn iconography and epigraphy. So here again are all 5 of these animals. My interest in jaguars comes from 1965. This is the tomb of the jade jaguar. We had to put in steel scaffolding to make sure the tomb didn't collapse further and, cover us in rocks. So this is the jaguar hide. This is actually physical jaguar hide here. And this is the jade jaguar with a water lily symbol. It's often called the water lily jaguar. This is like an alabaster bowl. The tomb of the jade jaguar is a completely separate lecture, but I just wanted to show you here. And this is a spondylus shell. So again, I'm working with animals. Here I am working with baby felines with a macaw. At Copan, they're all over the place. You go to Copan, they land on your shoulders. And the tapir, here I am giving mommy a massage here. I found out she wanted, this is where she wanted it. She didn't want it under, she wants it on her side. So, and we have videos on our site, maya-ethnozoology.org. We show a video of our interaction with these animals. Spider monkeys. He realized he'd be safe, so he hops on my shoulder and is looking at something else. If you're studying anything about the Maya, be sure to learn the Popol Vuh inside out. There are 2 parts of the Popol Vuh. There's the history of the Quiche. That's fine for the history of the Quiche. What you want is the part on the caves, on Xibalba, on the demons, and on the hero twins. And they talk about some Popo ants collecting flowers. Well, they're called leaf-cutting ants. So I went out and I spent, again, year after year going through the rainforest to study when and how often. So here's a Zampopo ant. Here's a Zampopo ant. And they do cut and carry flowers. So again, anytime I read something in the Popol Vuh and I'm unsure of it, I go out and study it in person. Right now, we're working primarily, this is Lake Yasha. When I came here in 1970, there was no national park, so I helped make the national park. Miguel Orrego and lots of Guatemalan students and student interns from universities in the States helped us map it. But most everybody works kind of here where the site is. This is the road, the mud road that goes to Nakum you get stuck on. So here, 3 cenotes. There are lots of cenotes here. There's a cenote here. There's a cenote here, and here 3 cenotes together. What we found is that we use satellite photographs, and once we find this on a satellite photograph, we hike up and down hills, up and down mountains, through the jungle, through the swamps, until we get there, and then we photograph it with a drone. We have a licensed drone, we have a professional pilot, and the park guards had never been here. The park rangers, they cried, just like I cry when I go to places of these big parks that I've never been. And so now we're studying primarily savannas. We've found 38 wetland savannas in the Parque Nacional Laguna de Tigre. We found over 100 west of Washington. We have a 5-year project. Obviously, we're also finding a lot of remains. We're not doing, it's not an it's archaeological in the sense we want to find out how did the Maya use it, but we're not doing any excavation. But here, there's obviously everywhere we found different areas out of these savannas. So these are seasonally inundated. So when it rains, these have water in them. And they're surrounded by Bajo forest. You can see the rain coming right now. So this is the last slide. Just wanted to say we're continuing. I'm 78 years old. I have no intention of stopping. Sorry, speaking dries my throat up. And so we're continuing primarily out here in these seasonally inundated areas. We're also working in the cactus area. I love cactus plants. And a lot of those cactus are edible. So we're also working in deserts. That's why I live in Guatemala. Guatemala has everything. It has mountains, it has volcanoes, it has both the Caribbean, it has the Pacific. It has every type of ecosystem you can imagine. Of course, a lot of Maya cities. So again, this area where we go, no intelligent professor has ever been here. No student has been here. The local people tell us nobody has been here because it's far away, because you have to walk through very intimidating areas. You're constantly tripping on stuff. You're falling. You're having to have the other people pull you out of a hole you fall into. Because when a palm tree rots, it leaves a hole all the way down to the ground. So anyway, our hour is up.